Hi, welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. It's been a phenomenal sports week. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Mike Migliori with Chip Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Al Levine, the walking infomercial today. Well, we're going to start off as we usually do. Al, what's on your mind?
Information. There's a local establishment called Level 20. I want to know if Devin can get a close-up here of the menu. We plan on going there after the show just to do a little sampling of their food. We've heard how great it is, and Tracy and Colin, the owners, they're super people. You guys should head down there right now while the show's going on. They have all kind of different specials. Their food's great. Devin Shea, one of our cameramen tonight, he had a burger that looked fantastic. He said it also tasted very good too. So we'll be down there after the show, and we'll set that menu down. Then, since I do some charity work and fundraising, we have August 1st, night at the races at the Meadows again. Same type of thing that went the last time. Smoking Jim Frazier made it, and Magic Mike was there. There was a record timer on them of 1.5 minutes, but I think they lasted a little longer. They even had fun, and there are pictures that they were watching the races. And then sports-wise, I got to tell you what's on my mind. I was looking, I'm going to need you one more time, Devin. I don't know if you can get the picture, but these guys might remember, it's a little before their time since I'm the oldest guy on the show, but you guys might remember the saying, who can?
American.
Pie Trainer. And he wrote this to a little boy named Alan Levine, and he said, to Alan, warmest regards, Pie Trainer.
Wow.
Or with, what is it? With best regards. Sorry.
Sometimes it's best to quit while you're ahead. This was all rehearsed.
It was unrehearsed, and we just had all that information to come out, and we're trying to have a little fun. Call 412-831-3304. Give us a call. We'd like to hear some of your input and opinions. And if you have a fundraiser or something, let us know. I'll talk about it. Thanks, Mike.
No problem, Al. Jim, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Magic Mike. Hey, just want to give another shout out to my good friend, Lieutenant Michael Vent. I tell you what, this is a guy that's promoting our show everywhere. Not only does he watch our show weekly as soon as it comes out on YouTube, but he's promoting it. He's sending out emails. He's forwarding our show to a lot of people. And I tell you what, there's a big buzz around town about the most popular co-host here, Chip. So the Chip the Prophet is building quite a fan base out there. But what's on my mind is Gateway High School.
University of Gateway?
University of Gateway.
Who moved in the neighborhood?
I want to give a congratulations to the senior quarterback that's coming year, Thomas Woodson. Black quarterback. He just signed he made a commitment to go to Arizona Wildcats to play quarterback for Rich Rodriguez. And there's quite a story with Thomas Woodson. Number one, he's a good friend of Magic Mike's and myself. We had him on our show when he was only in 10th grade to honor him. But last summer, if you remember, down in North Carolina, he was on a recruiting visit with the all-state linebacker from Gateway, and the kid ended up getting killed by a 29-year-old Mexican. Got shot in the back, but Thomas Woodson, don't forget, was shot in the leg, and doctors never thought he'd ever play football again, but he was able to play last year. He's looking forward to a big-time senior season this year. And I tell you what, Arizona Wildcats doing some great things. Rich Rodriguez is a friend of mine. My best friend's the defensive coordinator for Arizona, Jeff Castile. And I tell you what, Wayne Capers from Char Valley will be going down there as a true freshman. Watch out for Wayne Capers, a great player. Upper St. Clair's Dakota Conwell is going there to play linebacker. He was an outstanding quarterback in high school. And don't forget, in 2007, freshman All-American Rob Gronkowski for the New England Patriots, formerly Woodland Hills, set some records down there at Arizona. So they're doing big things. This year I'm predicting already that Gateway will go down in history as the greatest football team of all time. They'll go undefeated and have win the state championship this year. This is already the second Division I scholarship offer. Jay Moore Parrish, two-way great players already committed to Pitt. I believe Gateway will have 8 Division I players off of their soon-to-be state championship team this year. And that's what's on my mind.
Nice.
I'll let that go for now. Chip, what's on your mind?
Well, thanks, Mike. Well, what's on my mind is it looks like my friend Jim here got bitten by the bug. And there's pirate fever all over the city of Pittsburgh, and I think it's nationwide. But what I'd like to touch on is not something that's happened on the field. We're going to delve into that later on in the show. But Sunday morning, I was watching the news, and I saw that the Pirates went out and did some community work on Saturday morning. Now, they played a game Friday evening, and the temperatures were 95 degrees, and they played a game. They had a 4 o'clock game Saturday afternoon, and the temperatures were up near 100 degrees. But Clint Hurdle and Ray Searage and several of the players took time to come out to Mount Lebanon to help support Sean Casey. And Sean Casey was a ball player. He played for Upper St. Clair High School. He played for the Reds, and he played for the Pirates for about 5 minutes before he got traded to the Detroit Tigers. But he put together a field for children that are disabled, that to make them eligible to play baseball. And these are children that never had the opportunity to play baseball. So the Pirates coaching staff and the team went out there in between games Friday night and Saturday, and we're working with the children and teaching them basic baseball skills. And my friend Mike here has stated in the past, and he's absolutely correct on this, that the Pittsburgh Penguins were in a Class A operation, and it looks like the Pirates are starting to follow suit, because that kind of community work in the middle of a season, that's something that needs to be recognized. And I wanted to just make sure that I gave a shout out to the Pirates and to Sean Casey, because the Pirates are supporting a guy that didn't even play for their team, and I think that's pretty big. I think it's on my mind.
Well, what's on my mind, get to in a minute. First, as far as rebuttals, Al Pietrainer, I think, was probably one of the best third basemen to ever play the game. Doesn't get a lot of recognition because he wasn't real flashy, but if you look back, his batting average was always good, and defensively, maybe the best, even if you include Brooks Robinson. Al, I think you might, Jim, I think you might be right. Gateway will probably go undefeated till the playoffs. Again, they will go most of the way, as they always do. But what's on my mind right now, and again, and I'm sure we're going to hear this one more time later, but there's nothing worse than a reporter with nothing to write. Newsflash, Joe Paterno is dead. Died a few months ago. There's some kind of investigations going on at Penn State. Jerry Sandusky's been convicted. They're going after Spanier and Graham and all the coaches, Curley, to due to perjury and such. Well, Curley comes up with a handful of emails. Okay, not emails from Joe Paterno, but emails that he sent to Spaniard. And they say, well, Joe says this or Joe says that. So we got morons like Colin Dunlap and these other yo-yos that are on the sports talk shows around here calling for Joe Paterno's statue to be torn down, and Joe Paterno should be this, and they should erase his record, and on and on and on, because you know what? These guys can't stand to prepare for a show, so they'll throw out something stupid like that so that you call in and have your say too. Well, let me tell you something, okay? For all you idiots that every time somebody says, well, Ben Roethlisberger did this, or Ben Roethlisberger, well, he was never charged with anything. What was Joe Paterno charged with? Nothing, okay? You have an email that one guy sent to another guy, not from Paterno, not from anybody. His name is even on it. It just says Joe. Right? So now we're going to tear down his statue. You know what, Penn State? Go ahead, tear his statue down. And when you do, tear down the other 5 buildings that he paid for.
Wow.
I'm done with that.
Wow.
Amen. They don't need to attack Joe Paterno. The people that were at fault for sweeping this under the rug, they're in hot water and they're trying to bail their way out, and they're trying to do it at the expense of Joe Paterno's legacy. And Joe Paterno's gone, but look what he did for 63 years for a lot of young men and for that university. I think they need to leave Joe Paterno alone. and move on with this, because it's about time that we put this all behind us, because Jerry Sandusky has been convicted. He is where he belongs, in jail, and that's where he should stay.
Well, I tell you what, not everybody's mad at Penn State and Joe Paterno. They got donations this year of $208 million, second most in school history. So there's still a lot of loyal Penn State people out there writing big checks.
That's right.
And this isn't going to end right away. Like I predicted before, this could be one of the largest scandals in American history. Look at all these bogus emails and everything else that's coming out. What about the police? What about the politicians that are around there? How could this even be hidden and swept aside? Think about that for a couple minutes.
Bigger than Jimmy Hoffa?
Well, he's under a stadium. That's not that big there. So, and he wasn't a football coach with a record, most wins in NCAA history. We can debate that later.
Well,
you know,
he's a union guy.
For something that was supposedly
So was Joe. So was Joe.
for something that was supposedly kept a secret and supposedly swept under the rug and supposedly covered up, there sure are a hell of a lot of people that know about it that they're trying to convict. Who didn't know about it?
Well, don't forget that Colin Dunlap was the same guy that backstabbed the late Bill Stewart, West Virginia University's coach. Bill Stewart, Colin Dunlap was one of the beat writers for West Virginia University. He got real close to Bill Stewart. He gave him some excellent interviews over the years. But when West Virginia University hired a coach in waiting, Bill Stewart went privately to a few guys and asked them to investigate this coach because, and they did, and found out that he had several DUIs. But Colin Dunlap waited several months and then broke the story, backstabbed Stewart, and that led to Stewart getting fired, and he passed away this past year. So I wouldn't trust Colin Dunlap as far as I could throw him.
Well,
Plus, he went to a City League school, Carrick.
Well, no offense to the station or the program manager or anything, but they should take the fan and change the name to the can, because that's where all the local sports media garbage seems to end up. But anyway, let's move on to something more pleasant. Chip, Pirates are doing okay.
Yeah, you know what? There's only one word I can use to describe the first half of the season that the Pirates have just completed is wow. I stated back at spring training that I, thought that this was the year that the Pirates were going to end the streak, and they have far exceeded mine and I believe everybody else's expectations. They look like they're one of the top 5 teams in the major leagues, and not only are they leading the Central Division, but they look like a very strong contender to make it to the playoffs. Now, I know the season's only halfway done, and, we sniffed this area last year, but if you compare the teams from last year to this year, it's a completely different animal. You've got a much more balanced pitching staff. You've got much more mature hitters. You look at what Pedro Alvarez has done over the last couple of months. He's raised his average up into the 230s. He's got over 50 RBIs. I believe he's sitting at 16 home runs. Andrew McCutchen is somebody that, had a very good first half of the season last year and disappeared in the second half of the season, is leading the league in batting average, and he's also got 18 home runs. And Andrew McCutchen isn't a real home run threat. He's hitting the ball hard, and and he's not trying to hit home runs, but in that process, he's hitting home runs. Neil Walker has raised his batting average to almost 290,
wow.
and he's being productive. And the Pirates' defense is very solid. I wrote something on a Sports Nation. They put these polls out, and I was playing around with one last week, and I just I typed out that the Pirates are following a very simple formula for winning baseball. They've got good pitching, they've got solid defense, and they're getting timely hitting. And if you can do those 3 things, you're going to win a lot of baseball games. And the Pirates are doing just that right now. They're sure they're going to be a lot of fun to watch the rest of the summer here.
Could this be World Series run? Because I tell you what, right now they're looking like a team that can win a World Championship.
Well, I will quote Andrew McCutchen after watching the game Sunday afternoon. Why not now? And
Wow.
and I think that's going to be my motto for the rest of the year. Why not now? I tell you what, you look around the major leagues, and there aren't a whole lot of teams that have the kind of depth that we have. We've got the best bullpen in baseball. And something I was listening to Clint Hurdle say before the game, he's going to switch around the starting rotation. And he's going to do that because he's got two pitchers that are very similar in A.J. Burnett and James McDonald. Now, here's two pitchers that are legitimate Cy Young candidates for this year. The last time the Pirates had a pitcher win the Cy Young Award was 1990, was Doug Drabick.
Wow.
James McDonald's got an ERA that I believe is about third in the National League. Burnett's ERA is a little bit higher, and that's because of two games that he pitched that he really got shelled. And reading an article Sunday morning about A.J. Burnett, he was absolutely devastated last Tuesday night. He pitched against the Houston Astros, and he gave up 12 hits and 6 runs in about 4 innings, and he got yanked. And the Pirates fans gave him a standing ovation as he walked off the field. Now, when he pitched in New York, he'd throw ball 1 and he'd start getting booed. It's a completely different animal, and he was totally taken back by that. And I think that's great. But McDonald and Burnett are power pitchers. They've got Bedard, who needs some work. They brought Jeff Karstens in off of the injured list, and who's the other?
Correa.
And Kevin Correa. So they're gonna start McDonald first. They're gonna pitch Correa, then they're gonna do Burnett. Then they're going to pitch Karstens, and they're going to start Erik Bedard. And the reason why he wants to start Erik Bedard last is so that he gets the extra rest, and they want to do some extra bullpen sessions with him because they've identified some problems with him that they can work on, and they feel that they can make him better. And they're not satisfied with what they've got so far. They're working and trying to tinker it and make it better. I like what I'm hearing, and I'm liking what I see.
Lincoln can't work his way back up into the lineup?
Well, you know what? That's a very good question, and I think Brad Lincoln is much better in middle relief than he is as a starter. I think Brad Lincoln will give you a good 2 or 3 innings. Evidence like Sunday afternoon. Burnett sat down in the 7th inning with 1 out. Lincoln came in, 1 pitch, pop out number 2. The next guy up, he threw him 3 pitches. 3 strikes, you're out. Brad Lincoln can be good in that role. I don't think his role is as a starting pitcher.
Well, I agree with you with Lincoln there, and they don't need him right now. This is the year of the pitcher. We got one of the best pitching staffs. I've been on the bandwagon a couple weeks now. I'm still looking for, what is the name of the hitting coach? Does anybody know? 412-831-3304. And I don't know if he was in your charitable event there the other day, but I didn't hear his name or another name of a hitting coach mentioned.
You know what? They were patient. When they weren't hitting in April and May, nobody panicked. They just kept working hard, and who would believe that over the last 6 weeks, the Pirates' offense has been the most productive in the National League. If somebody would have said that in April and May, I would have got laughed off the air or out of the room.
At least out of the room here, Chip. We're not arguing with you now.
They're putting up some runs. I'm going to speak to a couple of other issues while I'm at it. Now, watching the game on Sunday, the Giants were playing the Pirates, and the Pirates were putting it to the Giants pretty good. Something appalled me about that game. Watching the Giants lay down and quit in the 7th inning made me sick. Bruce Bochy pulled everybody out, started putting in all these people that never play, and I don't understand how a major league manager can get away with quitting in the middle of the game. A baseball game is not over until there's 27 outs, and they gave up with 3 innings left, and the Pirates kept sticking it to them, and I'm glad they did. To quote my friend Mike Migliore here, yes, there is nothing worse than a reporter with nothing to write. Because in the Post-Gazette this morning was an article bashing Andrew McCutchen because of a tweet he made because he's sitting in an airport frustrated about a layover. He really needs to get a life.
Who wrote it?
Ron Cook.
There's a shocker.
Okay? But, just to give you a little idea of the kind of player and person that Andrew McCutchen is, I was listening to a radio station on Monday morning, and a gentleman called because he had taken his son down to the baseball game Sunday. So McCutchen's out there stretching before the game, and his kid, he gives his kid the baseball, and his kid says, I'm going to go down and get Andrew McCutchen's autograph. Well, To preface the story, in the last game of the season last year, this gentleman had taken his son down to the game, and his son wore the hat with the dreadlocks on it, and he was dressed up as Andrew McCutchen, and McCutchen came over and met the child and shook his hand and gave him an autograph and everything. So the kid went back down, and McCutchen's stretching, and there's a crowd of other people around him yelling for him to, for autograph. And after he gets done stretching, he walks over to the railing, and he goes to the young boy, and he says, "Josh, how are you doing?" He knew the kid by name,
Wow.
and he signed an autograph for him. Now, is this the kind of guy that you want to bash? When do we see a professional athlete that treats children like this? A lot of them in the past years have been a bunch of prima donnas, but I mean, this is somebody here that we should be the face of the franchise. And I'm proud he's playing for my team, and I'm glad we're going to have him for the next few years.
Well, maybe that's one of the reasons they did sign him to that long-term contract at an undervalued price right now. And then the other thing with these sports writers, it's just like on this show. Sometimes we disagree just to see a reaction from somebody else. And with us mentioning that guy who's on the Post-Gazette staff, I forget who his name is that the writer is. I wouldn't even acknowledge that he's a writer if I didn't like him. Why give him any good publicity? Any publicity is what they want. Just a little insight from Al Levine, the talking machine here.
Well, the only reason I paid attention because I couldn't believe that somebody would write something negative about Andrew McCutchen.
Well, look, we're still talking about it. That's what he did it for. He won.
He won.
We lost.
I don't think any of the publicity that he got on this show has been very positive.
Yeah, and I guess he could put our criticism right up there with his Pulitzer Prize, right?
Can you believe that they let this idiot vote for the All-Star, or for the Hall of Fame? That's insane.
And then to touch on a couple of other things, with the way the Pirates are playing, everybody's just starting to yell MVP and MVP, and Andrew McCutchen is a legitimate MVP candidate. He continues on the way he's been. There's somebody else that's going to get a lot of recognition before the end of the year is Clint Hurdle. And I think he should be a strong candidate for National League Manager of the Year because what he's done with the Pirate staff, and I know, Mike, you disagree with me, but
I think he has no idea how to handle the pitchers, but
well,
that's just me.
Hey, Chip, I want to defend you on this one. I don't know if Clint Hurdle could coach other places, but his gut feeling is working here. And he's juggling the lineups, even when we don't think he should. He just juggled the pitching staff, made sense, splitting up Burnett and McDonald. I like that idea. Let's see what happens in the second half. That bandwagon has lost wheels many times before, and I got a flash from one of my biggest fans, my brother-in-law, Gary, said he heard somebody mentioning the batting coach. He was bragging about him, Greg Ritchie. So there's the news flash. There was a little texter there. Nobody will call in, but 412-831-3304. We still care about that number. Give us a call this week.
There you go, Chip. Al stood up for you. You must be right.
I don't know.
I've been right a few times this year.
Must be right.
And I've been wrong.
Miami
I've been
Heat.
right, but,
Tiger coming
there's
back.
somebody else that needs to get mentioned here, and he's responsible for a lot of the success we're having, and that's Neil Huntington. Neil Huntington came here in 2008, and he came into an organization that had a minor league system that was completely decimated, that didn't have a single prospect in it. And now the Pirates, have depth in their minor league organization. I'm impressed by the fact that he didn't make any deals this year. He didn't trade Joel Hanrahan away. There's some talks about the Pirates are entertaining some offers to make trades now. And my humble opinion is I don't think the Pirates should trade anybody, and I think really the answer to all the Pirates' problems lie within the organization. And, I think they've got a continuity now and a camaraderie with the team that, is an intangible, and I think that they shouldn't mess with it.
Chip, let me second that emotion again. As long as they're pitching, hitting, and winning, I'm with you on that with the Pirates. 19 years of nothing, so hopefully they can do it this year. Let them keep pitching like they are and keep hitting now and winning those games.
And I'll tell you what, I was so sorry to see the All-Star break come when it did.
Bad
the last
timing.
homestand, we won 6 or 7 games. I was there Thursday night watching them complete a 4-game sweep of the Astros, and boy, was it nice. Jeff Karstens came out and just pitched lights out. 4 in a row against anybody. That's quite an accomplishment.
Well, right now, they have the 4th best record in the entire major leagues, behind the Yankees, the Rangers, and the Nationals. And while the Nationals have pretty much been on the same path as the Pirates. So who knows if they're going to hold on or not. But in the National League, there's not a lot of much better teams. And one of the things that happened, in addition to the Pirates getting better, is the division got a little bit worse. Prince Fielder left Milwaukee, went to Detroit. Albert Pujols left St. Louis, went to Anaheim. Those are probably two of the best players, at least the two best bats in the league at the time. Right now, probably the best player in our division would be Joey Votto, Cincinnati. But Andrew McCutcheon's got to be second. So the Pirates, they said in addition to them getting better, the rest of the division took a little bit of a step backwards. And there's not really a super team in the National League right now. So the Pirates do have an opportunity, if they can win the division, to progress to the to possibly go to the World Series.
And that's why I say, why not now? I mean, you got to believe it can happen, and we've been dying for a team that could give us this kind of enthusiasm, and we've got our prayers have been answered. We just, the season's not over. We really haven't accomplished anything yet. We've got the 4th best record in baseball, but it's still July 10th. We've got to play through the month of July, through the dog days of August, and then, we're going to have a pennant race in September. And it's going to be nice to watch baseball games in September that actually mean something.
Well, I'm hoping they go past that 100-game mark, so I'll be right with you, Chip, rooting for them. Hopefully I can get a season package like you did. I want to hear that deal. I'm looking for 10 games. That'd be nice. Any free ones? Any free tickets out there? 412-831-3304.
Do you see any scenario, though, Chip, Mike, or Al, where the Pirates could collapse like they did last year? I mean, what's the situation? I mean, right now, they're doing everything well. The fans are behind them. The enthusiasm.
Two injuries right now.
That's the only thing that you see?
McCutcheon getting hurt, possibly, and maybe McDonald or Burnett.
Well, that is a distinct possibility. As strong of a possibility as us winning the division, going on to the playoffs and making a noise. Yeah, the wheels could fall off the bus. We know that because it happened last year. But I think we learned from that last year, and I think bringing in the veteran presences like A.J. Burnett, and getting rid of poison in the dugout, like by shipping Ronnie Cedeno out of town. And that Barnes is not your shortstop of the future, but he's an adequate shortstop. He can make all the plays. He may not he leaves a little bit desired at the plate, but he can make he can make a clutch hit when you need one. I think they got rid of the people they needed to get rid of this year, and they made all the right moves. The people that they decided to pick up were just perfect fits. They were, the pieces of the puzzle that just slid right in there. There's a lot of luck involved in things, and I think, we got lucky. But, yeah, there is the possibility that, this could all blow up in our faces. I just don't see the attitude of it. Like, nobody looks like they've accomplished anything. They know that they've got a lot of work ahead of them, and I think they're going to be up to the task.
Two things that they do this year that they didn't have last year's. First, they beat the teams that they're better than. They don't go out and lose a series to the Astros or the Cubs. The teams that they're supposed to beat, they do. The other thing is, right now their bats are much better than they were last year at this time. Last year the pitching carried them all the way. This year the pitching kept them afloat until the bats got hot, and now both seem to be doing okay, the pitchers and the batters. What could go wrong? Again, I'm not a big fan of the way Hurdle uses 5 pitchers a game and stuff like that. I think that he's overusing the pitchers, and that could become a problem later on. And if the hitting cools off, a lot of guys are hitting right now better than they've ever hit in their careers before. Maybe it's just their time, and they've gotten to that point. But if they start to regress, well, then again, you could possibly have a problem. But again, in the next out of the next 70 games, they have 35 games against Houston, the Cubs, and Milwaukee, and those are teams that right now they are better than. And I would guess that they will win a large percentage of those games. And if they do, then they're not going to have that collapse.
Well, and I agree with Mike. That's the one thing that's absolutely true what the Pirates are doing this year. They're beating the teams that they should, and they're even playing well against the teams that are on an equal par. They've held their ground against the Cincinnati Reds, and I honestly think that the division's going to come down to a dog fight between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. I think the two teams mirror one another. Very much so. Cincinnati's got a strong pitching staff. Puerto's is definitely an all-star. He didn't make the all-star team, and we talked about this last week. Dusty Baker moaned about it, but Puerto pitched on Sunday. A.J. Burnett pitched on Sunday. James McDonald pitched on Saturday. So I wouldn't pick them on my all-star team if I was the manager. You need to have people that are going to be able to pitch tonight. And they pitched on Saturday. You can't pitch them today, and I would never allow one of my pitchers to pitch on 2 days rest, when I know I've got the second half of the season to use them.
Only in the World Series, Chip. That's when we'll pitch Burnett and McDonald back to back.
If you take a look at what La Russa did, he got a few starting pitchers, but he loaded up with relievers. Mm-hmm. And to me, that looks like he's taking it seriously and trying to win this game.
Well, this is his swan song. They gave him an honorary manager because he did win the World Series last year, and the World Series managers do get the opportunity to coach the All-Star team. But this is the last time that he's going to coach a team, and who wouldn't want to go out on a winning note? As much as I dislike Tony La Russa.
Nice disclaimer there, Chip. But back to the Pirates there with being on the bandwagon there. Why don't we just enjoy the season, the rest of it here? I'm hoping they don't fail. I sort of believe that when they talked in spring training, they said that a lot of their players weren't ready to play the whole season, and this year they were working towards that. Well, I'm starting to see a lot of the pitchers are lasting more than 6 innings, and they go deeper in the lineup with these teams. And even though he's bringing in 3 or 4 other pitchers, he does have them in a certain scenario where he's getting some good work out of them. Look at Grilly being an 8th inning guy, and then even once in a while he's pitched a 9th inning. And Hanrahan, like Chip and I discussed earlier, he's actually been struggling. Even though he has a bunch of saves, he did get a couple wins that were sort of ironic, that he had a save situation that got blown, and then the Pirates came back and he got a win. So he even was making fun of that too. So they're a nice loose bunch of guys out there, and that always helps. It harkens back to 1979 and We Are Family, like you guys are mentioning how they bonded. They're doing different things like that out in the community. So maybe this will be their year. That would be nice.
Well, that's right here, guys. Fear the Zoltan.
What is that? How do you do that?
The left over the right. Left palm out, right palm in.
I did the wrong way.
Fear the Zoltan.
I thought you were shooting gang signs.
No.
I did our show. Our show's the right palm.
But do you think that Andrew can do what Dave Parker did in 1979, win the MVP tonight?
No.
If he plays like he does and he's able to last the whole season, it looks like he's a stronger guy this year than last year.
My question would be, is Chris Berman going to be interviewing somebody else while he's doing it?
My question is, who cares who he interviews? If it's Josh Hamilton, so what? Who cares who they interview? Home run derby's just for PR.
The reason I would say no, actually 2 reasons. First, Parker had 2 advantages. He started, and the game was here.
Okay.
And he had a great game. He had a home run. He threw a guy out at the plate.
Threw a guy out at the third too from right
So he had a good game, but you would think that one of the starters probably will get the MVP and possibly one of the pitchers.
And he was sleeping with one of the people that was in the group, We Are Family, Sister Sledge.
How they come up with that.
He got my vote. She was a pretty girl. So.
They were really
there you go, then.
But I'll tell you what, pirate tickets are going to be a hot commodity, and you know what, the Pittsburgh fans are starting to come out in droves to the games. I was at a game Thursday night. It was 95 degrees with like 90% humidity. Probably had about 25,000 people there on a Thursday night. Weeknights usually don't get crowds like that. And the most ironic thing about that I found out was listening to the announcers on Saturday that over 250,000 people tuned in to watch that game Thursday night in the tri-state area. So you know what, everybody's noticing, but you know, you got that kind of support. I mean, it's great to see because you know we've always said that you know if they put a team,
250,000 is that a lot of people?
Just the city has over 330,000. Where were they all at?
No, that's how many people tuned into Root Sports to watch the game, and we've always said that if they gave us a product, a contending team, that the people would come out, and they're starting to do just that.
That was only 10 times the amount of people in the stadium.
No, actually, that was 250,000 households, not 250,000 people.
That makes
Some
a big
households might
difference.
have 2 or 3 people.
That makes a big difference. That might have been 1 million people.
Everybody's
Nice
excited
save.
about the Pirates. There's a buzz around town, and they are the story of the summer.
That's true.
Yeah, we won't mention any other teams now because of the Pirates. Let's go Buccos.
How about the amazing Mets? What do you guys think? The Mets is a good story this year.
R.A. Dickey. R.A. Dickey, buddy. Get the knuckleball out. What a story that is.
I hate to break this up because the Pirates are a great story. But we got to do public service here. We have to avert a tragedy. I know a lot of you Penguin fans are on suicide watch. But you know what? Zach Parise really wasn't all that big a deal. He may have been the best or the most interesting free agent this year, or maybe not, because P.A. Parento had exactly the same numbers as he did last year, and he signed for about $4 million, which is a little less than half of what Parise signed for. Also, Ryan Suter, nice defenseman, but Penguins have plenty of those. I wouldn't feel all that bad, and actually, right now, I guess the deal is that they're going to try to sign Alexander Semin. I wouldn't be too sad when that goes away either. Okay, the two people out there that they should be looking at are Nash in Columbus. Again, maybe not a great fit, but he'd probably help a little bit. Bobby Ryan in Anaheim is the answer. If the Penguins want to make a move, if Shiro wants to make a move, that's who he should be looking at. Anaheim doesn't like him all that much anymore. He's kind of in their doghouse. He would be the best fit for a winger on Crosby's line. If you bring him in and put him with Crosby and Dupuis, keep Malkin with Neal and Kunitz, they have the best 6 players the best 6 forwards in the league together. That will make a huge dent in what they need. And then as far as Suter, well, they got a lot of defensemen already. They've got some very good defensemen. They've got about 3 right now over at their prospect camp at the stadium or at the arena, that could step up and do the job right now. Unfortunately, they'll never be able to move Martin with that contract. Personally, I'd send him to Wheeling. But, $5 million is a lot to pay somebody in Wheeling, I guess. I don't think that he's the answer, but they're probably going to hold on to him just because of that money. But they've got a lot of people out there in their organization that can step up. They didn't need Zach Parise. He would have been a nice to have. When he went to Minnesota, he's the best player on their team. Suter will probably be the second best player on their team, and they will still be a bad team. If he had come to the Penguins, he would have been 6th or 7th on the depth chart as far as the best players on the team. He's not as good as Crosby. He's not as good as Malkin. Why would you give him that kind of money? We had a better player in Jordan Staal and didn't give him that kind of money. He went away. So don't feel too bad about losing out on Zach Parise. It wasn't that big a loss.
I agree with you on that, Mike.
Parise is as much of a fuss as people were making about him. How would he fit in a team where he's not the star? Okay, you get signed for this big money and you're 5th or 6th fiddle. That's gonna lead to dissension. In
Chip,
the locker
that's
room.
why
There's a lot to be said about the chemistry that the teams are able to get.
But that's why he made his decision. That was a simple decision here. Just because the money's being offered, they use that as a bargaining chip. When you have a weak draft, look what happens. There's a couple players that go to the top, they get the millions here. Just like Parise. Look, Martin was actually helping to recruit him. Isn't that ironic? There's a guy that should be gone, and he's actually recruiting a guy to get $90-some million. And then look at Jordan Staal. I was a big Jordan Staal fan, but like the emperor next to me says, there's just another piece of meat out there to play. Well, I hope he's right this time, but it will be nice to see Jordan Staal with his brother there maybe as a winger and see how many goals and see his offensive output increase. So I don't blame him for trying other territory. And what a wedding present that was on the night of his wedding. What a deal.
Well, that's what he wanted, and that's what he got. As far as Martin trying to recruit Parise, obviously he's about as good a recruiter as he's a defenseman. They should fire him just for that.
I was out of town when the Jordan Staal trade made, and I wanted to ask Mike this question: do you think Penguins will be a better team now that Jordan Staal is gone with what they got for him, or do you think they're going to be worse off?
No, I mean losing Jordan Stahl is I mean that's tough. He was a very good two-way forward. You don't replace that too easily. Sutter he's a nice player too. He's a good penalty killer. Jordan Stahl is a great penalty killer. I don't know so much that they're a better team without him. The problem with Jordan Stahl was he was a center, and he was never going to be the 1 or the 2 center as long as Crosby and Malkin were playing. I think that was probably as big a part of his decision as the fact that his brother played there, was the fact that once again, now that Crosby was back, he was going to be sent down to the third line and was not going to get nearly as much ice time. If Jordan Stahl had gotten 1 or 2, first or second line ice time, his numbers would have been a lot better than they are.
Well, I think it's going to hurt on the defensive game. It may not hurt offensively. We have a heck of an offensive team, but on the defense, we could have a problem there. He did save us a lot of times because he would go back and defend people where we have our defense running up to the other end a lot of times. So he could come back with that long reach. And I think he handled it pretty well in the back there.
Well, what about this kid they picked up in the draft as part of the pick? I don't even know his name. The defenseman they picked up in the first round. Does he look like he might be, part of the solution, or?
No, he's not ready yet. I mean, in hockey, you very rarely draft somebody in hockey that starts that year. That's because they'll go as far back as high school to. To do. I mean, they have Jaromir Jagr. They drafted him. He played. Jordan Stahl, they drafted him. He played. But those, it doesn't always happen that way. So that part of it, he'll have to fit in to either to Wheeling or Wilkes-Barre or whatever, and he'll work his way up. But we have defensemen like Dupre, Joe Morrow, and a couple other guys that look like they're ready to come up. And they'll fill those holes defensively. I think the Penguins will be a much better hockey team defensively this year.
They definitely have to be, because that was their flaw in the playoffs last year.
Right. Now, if they don't get Semin or Shane Doan or whatever, if they don't get these guys, then they have Eric Tangradi, who never really got much playing time when he was up. If you put him on a line with Crosby, I think that he will improve vastly. So they've got players like that, that Bo Bennett that may be able to come up and step up. So they've got a lot of answers in their system, just like the Pirates do. They may not have to make a trade. They just might have to, watch these guys a little bit closer during this camp and pick one to come up and give them an opportunity.
No, it'll be interesting to watch that happen. Because the Penguins are just too talented of a team to not be raising that cup up at the end of the year. And I'm looking forward to seeing them, give chase to it this year.
Well, I think if they just stay pat, they'll be fine. They have the talent there. Let's just do it, and we'll root for them like the Pirates here, Chip.
Hey, you know what? You got to root for the homeboys.
Well, there's something that your standard talk show host that doesn't want to prepare for his show will throw out every once in a while. Is it a good season if the Pirates are over 500, or do they have to make the playoffs for it to be a good season?
Playoffs.
To be honest with you, the Pirates right now, even if they don't make the playoffs, and they've got a competitive team running on down, and they have a chance to contend for a division championship, and even if they come up a little bit short, yes, I think it's a successful season, because it's a far cry better than what we've had before. Because what used to happen over the last 19 years, what was it, the third week of July, the Steelers went to training camp and baseball season was over.
That word.
So it's the first time we mentioned the Steelers on the show.
No, don't
but
do that.
But I mean, I expect the Pirates to make it to the playoffs. But if they don't, I think the season will be a huge success. Obviously it'd be much more of a success if we make it to the playoffs, and on the odd chance win the World Series. Wouldn't that be great? To have a parade in October. Right?
I think if they go 500, we should still have a parade.
I disagree.
I'll tell you what.
I disagree with both of those guys. If it's not playoffs, I mean, why set a scale of mediocrity? I'd rather dream big, dream large, go for the playoffs. If we're in the playoffs, that's a successful season. We haven't been there in so long. Come on now. Why would we want to settle for something less? 11 games over 500? I believe they can go all the way.
It's hard to make the playoffs in baseball.
Not anymore.
No, it's easy now. They added a team.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I'll tell you, first off, I'm not somebody that'll say, hey, I'm okay with having bronchitis because it's not as bad as pneumonia. So no, I don't think that it's okay.
We agree.
If we have a good season because it's not as bad as last year. I think every team in every sport should be striving to make the playoffs. And if you don't make the playoffs, no matter how much better you did than last year, it's still not a successful season. In fact, if you don't win the World Series, it's not a successful season. Only one team in every sport every year has what I would consider a successful season, and that's winning the championship.
And then, and that is the goal of every single team. And I don't think the Pirates are playing this year just to hit 500. I think right now, I think they're beginning to believe in themselves that they can reach the heights.
Well, Jim, will Gateway be satisfied just to make bad example? Excuse me. That was a bad example, but take like another team.
Hey, Jim, if you get onto another subject, I was
Okay.
Talk about Reggie Jackson in the New York Yankees. Okay, Reggie Jackson made some comments in Sports Illustrated this past week, and we've heard too the players from the steroid era that got ahead of him on the home run list, and what his thoughts were about who he feels that the home run king in baseball is, and he feels that Hank Aaron is still a home run king, and that the other people's records are tainted. And he took exception with A-Rod, who is an admitted steroid user, and the statistics that went with it. So the Yankees asked him to not come around anymore because I guess they're trying to censor him, because I guess in the United States of America you have the right to free speech, but if you're a Yankee employee you don't. I think Reggie Jackson's entitled to his opinion, and I think that the Yankees, by asking him to stay away from the team, have made this an issue now. That, what's wrong with Reggie Jackson speaking his mind about any of the players on the team or any of the players that, that are out of baseball now that will never get into the Hall of Fame? Personally, I agree with Reggie's point of view, but that's just my opinion. But I just find it laughable that the Yankees would censor him.
Well, I'll tell you what, first off, the Yankees have not censored him. All right? The Yankees might tell him don't come around the team, but Reggie Jackson will find a forum to speak his mind anytime, anywhere he wants. Mm-hmm. There's no sports talk show nor any news channel that will not bring him on if he wants to talk. And probably he'll get on a place that won't run commercials over him when he's talking. But he will have his say about the Yankees on and on. And the more the Yankees try to censor him, a guy like Reggie Jackson, the more he will talk.
Well, wait a second. Did he shave his mustache off? Because don't they have a no-hair policy? If he agreed to that, he can't speak out because if he shaved.
Well, one thing I know is it's hard on A-Rod. I mean, you go to the Dominican Republic and that steroids is running rampant down there, man. That's as common as M&Ms down there, man. So
what about Madonna? What happened with Madonna and him?
Well, he probably needed some steroids to keep up with that too.
Yeah.
Well, then we get onto the subjects about.
And that leads me to another thing. There's a national publication that asked the question, who's the most overrated player in baseball? And Alex Rodriguez was by far the number one pick. They feel that he's the most overrated player in baseball. Wow. You look what he's done the last few years. I mean, he hasn't. When he got the big $250 million contract, he was hitting 50 home runs. He was driving in 125, 130 runs, and he isn't coming anywhere close to that anymore.
Well, I was a little disappointed. I met A-Rod back when they had the All-Star game here in Pittsburgh, and we went from High Tops. They had the High Top Sports Bar, and they rolled out the red carpet, and I escorted him to the stadium. He was in a suit at the time, but I was a little disappointed because I thought it'd be a lot of female groupies around, man, because he was known to have a lot of ladies. But I tell you what, I was a little disappointed, man. I wish I would have been escorting somebody else.
Is that when you hung up your shoes?
But I was surprised how tall he was. And it was obviously, prior to him using steroids because he didn't have much chest development at that time.
And here's the whole thing with something like that. Players like Alex Rodriguez, even Barry Bonds, they were probably two of the better players of their generation, and they didn't need to use performance-enhancing drugs to be top caliber players. And I don't understand why they did. I guess it was an ego thing. They wanted to get more press than the others. I hear stories about Bonds was getting upset because Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were getting all the print in 1998 when they had the home run, they chasing Roger Maris's record, and all of a sudden nobody's talking about Barry Bonds. And just none of those players had to do that. They weren't mediocre players. I could see guys in the minor leagues that may never get a chance to play in the majors, juicing, trying to make the majors and get their 15 minutes of fame. But these guys would have been stars had they not done it.
Maybe if Ken Griffey Jr. would have done it, he'd have had a better career his second time in Cincinnati. So who's to say?
You know what? That's a pretty good point. Ken Griffey Jr. was, I think, maybe one of the best baseball players ever. Definitely the best baseball player of his time until he got injured. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that the steroids would have done for him is kept him off the injured list.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Who knows what that would have caused him later in life. But if given a full career, I believe that Ken Griffey Jr. would have
shattered records,
broken the home run records, and you might have seen some triple crown winners out of him.
Well, like another bump for steroids.
I'd rather see these guys on HGH, since that's a little more natural, and it helps a lot of young people to grow that are too short. So imagine why these guys are so big, and it helps you heal faster too. But you can do a lot of supplementation legally to do that too, to promote your HGH in your own body. So I'm sure they do some of that. And everybody looks through an edge. Like you're saying about in the past with Hank Aaron and everybody else, what were they taking back then to stay awake?
You got a flyer in there for Belko?
No. I'll go to ball 4 with Jim Bouton in the Greenie era. Why did they have a bowl of all these greenies and all kind of other stuff that was right at the training table? That was a breakfast of champions. They had a beer and they chugged it down. So, every era had something going on. And I won't even go back to Babe Ruth. Okay? Not today.
Beer and hot dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, you stole my thunder. And a lot of women, too.
That's almost as good as the Red Sox last year, drinking beer and eating fried chicken in the dugout while the game's being played.
That's what got the Babe Ruth thing.
Let me ask you guys this.
Get back to the subject here.
Because, a lot of people say that, athletes should, sustain, avoid women prior to their sporting event. But you take Bob Beamon in the Olympics, I guess the 68 Olympics. Bob Beamon came out and said that he was with a woman the night before. He jumped and have never jumped over 27 feet in the long jump and did almost 30 feet and it's still a record today.
Now he's trying to jump away from.
Well, I think you have to watch when you're going with women before a Super Bowl, that you have to watch that because a lot of players have gotten in trouble in this curfew and not even shown up for the game. And I won't mention names.
Eugene Robinson from Green Bay.
Right. And there's some notorious players that...
But he paid for that.
And they sort of missed the game. So they could get carried
His
away.
wife is making sure he's still paying.
That guy from Oakland.
There's lots of things.
Oh, yeah, the guy from Oakland.
Yeah.
But I
went crazy.
I think what they do with somebody else the night before, that's nobody's business. I don't think that affects.
But do you think it? You don't think it affects?
I don't think it would affect somebody's performance one way or another. You're either you're focused, you're dialed into doing what you're doing. Whoever you slept with the night before or didn't sleep with the night before, I don't think would make you jump further or less far. The stars were aligned right. I don't know.
I don't know. I think a guy like Wilt Chamberlain, who's one of our heroes on the show, we've all mentioned about him.
Hero of mine.
So I think it didn't matter with him. It enhanced his play, all of his games. So that's on the record. Look at he has one of the highest scoring averages on and off the court, as Smoking Jim would tell us.
But you look at a guy like Jake LaMotta. Jake LaMotta went for, even as he was married, he went for years without even doing anything. He didn't do anything until he became champ of the world. So,
well, work.
I'll tell you. Guy I have a lot of respect for, jokingly refers to Ray Lewis as the greatest football player of all time. Ray never hung out with girls the night before the Super Bowl. Killed a few people. But, yeah. No girls. And they won.
He hasn't been back since then.
Well, wasn't that after the Super Bowl?
Well, that was
That's
actually
like
before.
before.
That was before.
It was
well,
before.
It was before they went. He was hanging out with. He was hanging out with some friends. I guess he was hanging out with Adrian Peterson's dad.
Jack the Knife.
But Adrian
No,
Peterson.
no. Guess whose lawyer he has?
Adrian Peterson was the victim there.
Hold it. Wait, Chip.
Rusty Harden got Roger Clemens off in there.
I knew we'd get Roger Clemens on before the end of the show because Adrian Peterson said, if you can get a guy off the hook like him because you got to pet it, not to talk about him, then you can help me because I'm surely a victim.
To speak to the same point, you've got Lance Armstrong's back in the news again, and I heard that the American or the Bicycling Association has banned him and anybody that was on his team from even being allowed anywhere near the sport anymore because they're going after Lance now, and they're going to probably waste another couple of $10 or $20 million trying to get somebody, and to testify against him, and then his attorneys are going to trash that person because the people that they're going to have testify against him are bigger dirtbags than he is, so he's going to walk away, and they're going to waste millions and millions of dollars, and it's just a waste of time. Let's bury the subject and forget about it. Why go after Lance Armstrong? What are you going to accomplish?
Not only are you not going to accomplish anything, they're killing themselves. They might as well cut their own throats because the only reason anybody's ever watched bicycling on TV is because Lance Armstrong was riding.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what he did? It was 10 years ago. Okay?
Yeah, but Chip,
you can't change the past.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even if he did that, he did come back from cancer to do it. And so what if everybody else on his team was convicted and they lived in his house? I mean, I don't expect anything else, but he is a true American hero. That's what we all look up to. That's why we wear these Live Strong and everything else. So, I mean, people can believe whatever they want. Like we've talked on this show, if you want role models, look for somebody that's a hero in your life, with a child, with a sick parent, or somebody like that. Look for those heroes that help your family. These sports guys, let's go watch them, enjoy them, but they're not my heroes. Find your family heroes.
One last thing, and I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but we've got the Olympics coming up pretty soon. And,
USA.
And the Olympics, everybody pays attention to that, but there's something I meant to mention last week, and I'd forgotten all about it. There was the, I know we'd laugh because nobody in the United States likes soccer, but the Spanish soccer team has done something that no other soccer team has ever done. They won 3 world events in a row. They won the World Cup, they won the Euro Cup twice, and they may be the favorite to win the Olympic gold medal. And I'm telling you what, I watched the final of Spain against Italy, and I was kind of impressed by the way they played soccer. And, it was watching the 2 best teams in the world play. And if you get a chance to watch that in the Olympics this year, it might be worth spending, 15 or 20 minutes with your eyes open. And you might be impressed by the caliber of athletes.
You watch a lot of sports. You sure you work, Chip?
He DVRs it. He's like you. He doesn't sleep. He's a zombie.
Tim, sleep is overrated. Okay? Sleep is overrated.
For
one last thing here, I want to talk a little bit about golf. Last week, Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson did not make the cut. Do you know how many people watch golf this weekend?
3.
6.
Yeah, and that's the first time. The last time that happened, I believe, was in 1993, 1994. Tiger Woods was an amateur, and Phil Mickelson was very young in his professional career. But I mean, the last time that those two didn't make the cut in the same tournament was almost 20 years ago.
And only 6 people watched that week, too.
Anyway, hope more than 6
I'm Mike
are watching this show.
McGlory, Chip Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, Al Levine. We're going to be at the Level Lounge in about half an hour. See you there.
5 minutes, folks.
Once you figure out how to speak your kids' language, well, you don't really have to say much at all. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.